I'm your host, Daniel James II, and we're back at it again with Season 3 of the Culture Connect, the podcast for the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs. Inspired by the vision of our Executive Director, Dr. Dolores DaCosta, we bring forward the voices of the forgotten, the stories of the unheard, and the realities of the marginalized in the Palmetto State. This season, you're going to hear from community organizers, business owners, nonprofit experts, tribal leaders, filmmakers, men and women, striving every day to make South Carolina a great place to live for all of its citizens. Be sure to follow us on all digital platforms so you don't miss the next episode of the Culture Connect. Hello, family. Welcome to this episode of the Culture Connect. I'm very excited. I have a very special guest in the studio joining us virtually today for celebrating this Black History Month. I have none other than filmmaker, comms extraordinaire, and of course, she is a Marion and Pee Dee native. We have none other than Mrs. Stacie Davis Hamilton. Welcome to the show, Stacie.
Well, good morning and hello, and how's everybody doing out there? Thank you so much, Daniel, and the team for allowing me to be here to share on your platform. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. You are a busy lady. You have a full family. You have a lot of filmings and things going on. So I thank you for making time in your schedule for us. I want to start off talking about because you're the only the second guest we've had from the PD.
Oh,
Only first Marion native. Of course, I'm a Marion native as well. So I feel like before anything else, we have that bond, of course. And of course, I've known you most of my life at this point.
mhm.
So I do want to ask you about your upbringing, your beginnings in Marion, and and what was that like, and how, and what were some of those key values that you carried with you as you've become this major, huge person in the communications world?
And you know what? Thank you for all of that. I thank you for the compliments. I see myself still trying to get there. I'm still working. I'm
I
still
know.
trying to be better. I'm still trying to improve my craft, my writing skills, um, my camera angles, just trying to improve to be a better filmmaker, a storyteller as well. So you asked the question, my upbringing. Yes, I am from Marion, South Carolina. I went to the Marion County Schools system, went through there, graduated from Marion High in 2007. I went to Claflin University in Orangeburg,
Mhm.
and it was in high school when I decided I wanted to do something in broadcast. And that's because we had a morning news show and I was the anchor, and you couldn't
Yes.
tell me nothing, okay? I knew I was delivering the school news.
Absolutely.
So I went to Claflin and I wanted to join the mass communications department, and I did. And I enjoyed my 4 years there. And I got into WMBF and I stayed there. And I was like, oh man, this is real life. Like things happen every day. There's nothing the same. News never is the same. Um, so I went there and then I had the opportunity to um do a sports documentary. And so from there is when I started getting an idea of filmmaking. My upbringing here in Marion County, I have my parents, Harris and Lois Davis, and I have a sister. And so we, small family, but big family. I have aunts and uncles in the area as well. And I can remember church was a big, big thing in our family. So going to church, getting those um, principles and morals and values started from home. Um, and getting the teachings from Bishop Michael and Pastor Melinda Blue, getting those teachings and getting prayed for and knowing what your purpose is. You have to start young because I see a lot of young people here in the area. I'm back home um, because one, we don't get the opportunities here in Marion County or the PD area of filmmaking. You don't get that opportunity of casting or those that are interested in the production or technical side. We have to go either to Atlanta or New York to get those experiences. So I came back home to, offer that opportunity for those students or adults. Um, so being home, gaining the experiences here and getting the prayer life, the faith brought me a long way, my faith. Um, and I'm very grateful of the opportunity and the place that I am right now because I know that this journey was not what I had in mind. I just stumbled upon it and it's been a roller coaster, but it's been fun. You know,
Absolutely.
it's been fun.
Absolutely. Stacie, I smile so hard because I think that I just admire the humility in your story. And I think that's how I know that as great places as you've gone, you're going to go even further because you have that spirit that still wants to work.
Mhm.
And I know that that came from God. Definitely your sense of purpose and destiny. You already talked about our pastors, and I was going to ask you about the teachings, but you already touched on it a little bit. If y'all don't know, the Door of Hope Christian Church is in Marion, South Carolina. She already mentioned our pastors. Bishop is like a regional father, but there's so many people that, it's one thing to come to God. It's another thing to know that God has called you to do something in this world, in your community, and actually that being planted in his house and in even a small, rural, obscure place, it is just as the Messiah was born in an obscure place,
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
brings great things out of small places. And I
Hmm.
think that you're definitely evidence of that. I would love, you're one of the founding families of our ministry. So when you talk about, going to church, like the what we see now, sanctuary wise or edifice or what we have now, we have a radio station now, but 20 some years ago, 30 years, that was not the case. So when you talk about growing up, you mean coming from something like there was no template for what we do now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our church, I remember, and those were the best days, Daniel. Oh my goodness. Those were the best days at the Old Door of Hope on 213 North Pine Street, Marion. Little white building.
Yeah.
Um, didn't have a lot, but we made it work, you know. I remember as a little girl, we had folding chairs. And so when service got really high and people were excited, those chairs were everywhere. The walls would be pouring down with water, you know. So I remember I would run by and take my hand and just wipe the water off and play in it. But those were the best days, a lot of days. And so I'm seeing where we started, a small church, small area, and look what God has done for us. Look where we are now. I'm impressed with the social media team at Door of Hope and the media department. Like
Yeah.
that was a big step up, and it's like you all are just going with it, and it's a blessing to see big because you're staying involved with the trends. It's not only for the secular world, but we too can, provide content that's humorous and also educational, informative about what's going on in our services or in our CCFM conference. So just to see those highlights and those reels is a blessing.
Wonderful.
Um, I would love to jump back in, but I have two little people, as you mentioned. So I'm on the back end. Whenever Sister Tasha call and say, "Hey, can you do this for me?" I'm willing to do it. But I admire you all because you all have done a tremendous job for the church and the social media.
We're trying. We're trying. We're trying. And we definitely, our team looks up at to you, and we look up to you. I do want to ask you this. Now, one of my earliest members of also Stacie, for those that don't know, my mother, she actually has a background in comms. She's been in comms for like 30 years, media, public relations, all of that. She started out as a journalist. And when we first came to the church, I remember us hanging out with the Davises, but particularly Stacie a lot. Stacie would ride with us sometimes and go places. Oh, and I think she was getting into the news world at that time, if I'm not mistaken. So those were some of the most formative memories. And I think at that time, she was a student at Claflin. So I do want to ask you about your Claflin comms experience because you're going to HBCU and doing comms is very different. African American media is like something to be studied in and
Mhm.
of itself.
Mhm.
I want to ask you some of the mentors in that program or practitioners that you studied under that really influence your path.
So I start with your mom. I remember your mom had braces when I first met her, and you were very, very small. So, and she always was helpful. When I graduated and I was looking for employment, she would be there like, hey, sis, they got this over here at this college. She was very, I can lean on her. I can depend on her when it came to a job or whatever, but she's a very remarkable woman. So, um, I studied under Michael Farewell, and he's still in my life right now. I can call him right now. He's in Columbia. His wife is also the president of um, SCETV. And so he was a big part of my life at Claflin and still is today. And another professor that was helpful in my public relations walk, he's no longer with us. His name is Dr. Preston Blakely, and he was a character himself. And so I remember I was sitting in his office, and I was trying to find a minor, and I was like, well, I'll just do public relations. And he's like, well, why? Why do you want to do it? And I was like, I don't know. Well, if you don't know why you want to do it, you need to figure something out why you want to do public. And I'm like, well, I'm already, social, and I can let people know what's going on. He's like, yeah, so have a meaning of what you're doing. Don't just choose something because it's on a paper. You got to have a meaning of why you want to do this. And I will never forget that conversation with him. But at Claflin, just being at a HBCU, I had three schools in mind. Claflin was number one. I was so excited when I got that letter in the mail saying, hey, you're here. We accepted you. Went on campus, and I said, I'm going to make the best of these 4 years. Could have graduated early, but my mom was like, if you graduate, you're going to come home and work. I said, oh, well, I'm just going to stay a little while longer.
That's right.
So I stayed, and I learned from my professors, Yolanda McCutcheon, she's in DC now, and just learning and being teachable and not going in class knowing that I know it all because I didn't know. And I had to learn, yeah, you're a writer, but can you write for news? Like it's a totally different style, totally different style. Even with filmmaking, when you're writing or when I'm writing scripts, that's a totally different style from news. So I had to go in and be open-minded, learning these different crafts. Now, the only thing about Claflin at that time in 2007, Claflin did not offer filmmaking. It was only broadcast, radio. So I didn't get the experience of filmmaking. I didn't go to a filmmaking school. I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
This is all learning from my own experiences, going out there, jumping in and just learning from those, reading, researching, YouTubing. All of this came from a talent from God. And Bishop Blue always preach about your gift makes room, God gives you these gifts and talents. So I didn't want to just sit on it and not do anything with it because I know it came from God above. So I had to go out and step on faith. And so my sports documentary of Coach Taft Watson, Hall of Fame, big name in the Pee Dee area, had a very, very strong presence when he was here. I felt honored to walk and stand with him because everybody like, Coach Watson, they were so elated to see him. And I was like, okay. And to know his story, it started out as an essay my freshman year at Claflin. Write about somebody significant in your community. And I was like, who could I write on? I called my mom. She was like, I got the perfect story, Taft Watson. And I sat with him, I interviewed him, and we talked and we built a friendship over those 4 or 5 years. We built a friendship. And just to hear what he had went through, um, I couldn't let that go. Like this is a story that need to be told. And so years later, we wrote a book together. Then we decided to do a documentary, and that was my first taste into filmmaking. And from there, I just wanted to do more, tell good stories. And so that was the beginning part of my filmmaking. I don't want to ramble.
No, no, no,
You
you
you let
good.
me
You
know
good.
now.
Let me tell you, I want to give for people who don't know, who is Coach Taft Watson to Marion County and the PD?
He's a legend, or he was a legend. He's an
Yeah.
icon. or was an icon. He was a giant here in the area. So he was a basketball coach for many years for the Turtles Bay High School, Centenary community,
Mhm.
and he made a huge impact. He was best known for in 1994. He was the boys basketball coach as well as the girls basketball coach, and both teams went to Columbia to compete in the South Carolina High School League, the championship in 94. And on that same day, he and both teams won two state championships. And they're like, oh wow, that's never been done in the state of South Carolina. And that is true. He right now and correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Watson was the only one that's holding that title as male and female basketball coach winning the state championship on the
Mhm.
same day. And so he that, you know, pushed him forward with his career as a basketball coach. And so on the personal side, Mr. Watson has or had three children. His son was a stellar basketball player in high school, but on Christmas Day, he was involved in a car accident and he passed away. And so that was back in 1963. And so now that's troubling because that's during the holiday season. You lost your son. And then his other son was also involved in an accident. He lost his life. And so he's has a daughter. She lives in Columbia there, Miss Maryland, very sweetheart. And so that whole family is filled with legacy and just talent. And Mr. Watson was a sweet guy. I can see him now sitting on his front porch, drinking some lemonade or whatever with his
That's
shoes.
right.
He always did his Converses, okay?
Mhm.
Chuck
Mhm.
Taylors.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's who
Wonderful.
Mr. Watson is. And I had to do a documentary on his life.
Wonderful. And I remember that effort. What I love is because you brought so much unity to that region. We have so many gems. And it's like, so and we've already talked about the next one. The next one you do, documentary wise, we're about to get to these Roku
Okay.
films, but that
Okay.
next documentary you do, okay, it has to have blue in it, something blue, something blue. It really does. He needs one. But I think that it brought so much unity. Fun fact, right next door to Mr. Taft Watson in Mullen, South Carolina. We just got us a draft pick to Carolina Panthers
Okay.
from Mullen, South Carolina.
Okay.
But yeah, he is a lady named Miss Annie Croslin Godfrey. And she that's my aunt, that's my granddaddy's sister, lives right next door to Mr. Taft's old house.
Really?
Yes, that's my
Oh my
auntie.
goodness.
So, yes, but my mother's father's family, they're all from Mullins. She, of course, loves Mr. Taft Watson. Rest in peace, of course. But Mr. Taft he left a great legacy. And he lived to be how old?
He passed away, I'm thinking 93, 92,
Okay.
93.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
he lived a full
He lived
life.
a
He
full
really
life.
lived a full life. Beautiful. Well,
Mhm.
Stacie, now I want to ask you about because okay, that was your start into filmmaking, but then you made a big splash. Let me tell you something. And you made a big splash during COVID-19. That is legendary. Uh,
Really?
Tell us about Christmas in Carolina. If you haven't seen it, it is written and produced by Miss Stacie Hamilton, Miss Stacie Davis-Hamilton, who we have here. It is on Roku. So
Mhm.
before you finish this episode, go watch it on Roku, then come back and and then listen to the rest of this conversation. But Christmas in Carolina features some major headliners. Talk about that endeavor for that film, the plot, and how you started writing this. Where did because this came from the mind God gave. So talk
Okay.
about that.
So I'm gonna give it to you really quick.
Uh-huh.
Um, So it was Christmas holiday season. My mom and I were sitting there, we're watching all these Christmas movies. Everybody loves Christmas movies, and the storyline is pretty much the same. Boy meets girl, girl don't like boy, boy continues to pursue girl, girl falls in love with boy, then something happens, and then at the end of the movie they get together. Okay.
Right.
So I was just looking at all these movies like everybody's doing the same thing. And so I looked at my mom. I said, you know what? I think I could write me a movie. And she said, well, you should. So I left her in the den and I went to my room and I was like writing a Christmas movie. And so that first Christmas in Carolina was actually about an NBA player. And then it, just we ended up with him being he worked at a small agency. Um, so did not have any money, Daniel. I was working at the time at a college in their athletics department. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna do it, you know? Um, I went, started writing the script, and I started looking at different actors. And I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 89, but I remember my 90s, like Hey Arnold and Family Matters and Will Smith, you know, those TV shows. And so started looking and I was like, okay, well, who is close to the area? So if I had to fly them in, I could afford it. And I saw that Kellie Williams Jackson, she plays Laura on Family Matters.
Mhm.
She was living not far from the area. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna find her email address.
Mhm.
Don't know her, she doesn't know me, but it was just stepping out on faith.
That's right.
All right. So I emailed, didn't get a response. So 3 weeks later, I said, I'm gonna email again. Maybe it went to like the spam folder. So let me just try again. So I emailed again, and a couple of days later, I get a phone call. And I'm like, hello. And it's her dad. And he's talking to me. He was like, hey, I got an email from you. I got two emails from you. I said, yes, sir, I did. So we're talking, and he's asking questions about the project and what I'm trying to do. And at that time, Daniel, I don't have all the answers because this is my first, so I don't know. I'm learning, I'm teaching, and the good thing about it, I was honest with him, like, hey, sir, I am just this is my first movie, so I'm still trying. And so he was very helpful. He guided me through, and that whole family was helpful. And so we went from there, and I found a production crew, the same crew that helped with Taft Watson. I reached out to them, and they came on board, and now I got to find some actors. And so I was like, let me stay home, and I found some actors who were interested in Marion, and then I went over to Charlotte and Atlanta. And so now we're all here. But the good thing about it, because I don't want you to say, oh, she contradicting herself. She said she only used actors, and these actors they had ties to South Carolina. And so they had to move to go get bigger roles. But when they saw the opportunity, they was like, hey, Stacie, I have family that live blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, wow. So it's a small circle, you know? So we all decided to do table reads, to rehearse, and I'm still revising the script, and I'm still learning, and I'm getting pointers from Mr.
I don't
Irvin.
understand. Hey Siri, I am does this is my first movie.
Siri has so much to say. Yes, Siri
I'm
has
so
so much to say.
sorry.
I know you do.
Did you hear? Siri just popped on like,
Right.
wait a
She
minute,
does
Siri, I
that.
ain't call for you right now. Says, hold on, I'm trying to do an interview.
Right.
So Mr. Irvin and his wife, they were giving me good feedback on the script, and Kellie as well. And then she said, well, I'm going to reach out to Darius and Eddie Winslow. I was like, oh wow, and he can be in the movie. Oh wow. So everything was falling into place, and it started with my little faith, my faith. And so now I'm having Darius in the film, and not only Darius, a lot of people may not know, but Sean Harrison played Waldo in Family Matters. He was involved with the film as well. He was a big, big help, a big part of the film, directing, co-directing, and whatever else that was needed. He was there on set. And so just to have these three icons from the 90s and where they are now in life, to be working with little old Stacie Davis at the time,
Alone.
who didn't have anything, but they saw the bigger picture. And so did not have distribution in place. I had to find distributors. And thankfully, there's a distributor that saw the work and saw, yeah, I would love to work with you and partner with you. I remember the day we shot the movie in December of 2019, and March of 2020, we're watching the film at Door of Hope. Everybody's there. And this is the beginning of COVID. So this was early March. We had no idea what was going on. And now, boom, it was right after I showed the film, we were getting ready to go on lockdown. And so now I'm like, oh wow, I'm thankful that we were able to shoot this movie before this happened. So now I'm home. I have this time during the pandemic. Why not write some more? Just write a bunch of scripts. And so now I'm writing using that time and also promoting Christmas in Carolina. And while we're there or while I'm in that season, God started opening doors, because of how you treat people. And, you just go out and remain humble. And so now I'm working with Ryan Toby, who's 1/3 of the group City High, but also played on with Whoopi Goldberg with Sister Act 2. And don't let me start naming, but just slowly but surely just working with names that say, oh yeah, we would love to work in your Christmas film or your holiday movies. Someone said, Stacie, we're going to consider you like the Mariah Carey of Christmas. You have all these Christmas movies. Like, oh my gosh, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's right.
But I'm trying to get there, guys.
And they'll play it every year around
Yeah,
Christmas
and that's what
time.
they're saying. They
Yeah.
play your movies every year. So, but I'm grateful because I know it was a story. But Daniel, I want to say this as well because a lot of people think, oh, it's easy. All I got to do is just get a pen and paper and we can go for it. Yeah, you have to have dedication and time. It's not going to happen overnight. This started 2018. I started writing. We shot it in 2019. You didn't get to see it until 2020. And so a lot of people, when they see it, they have comments. And it's good because my uncle told me I was boohoo crying. I was reading comments on YouTube. I had to stay off of that. And he was like, Stacie, you need to hear the truth so you can be better. They're telling you something that you need to hear. Don't think about it as being negative. If you're having an audio issue, your next project, you make sure your audio is the best that you can do. So I use those comments that YouTubers and those that don't even know who I am or know the story or know the circumstance. I use what they were saying to be better. So each time I'm trying to be better. And so I took that note and I was like, you know what? You're right. Because I was boohoo crying. I was like, oh my gosh, they're ripping me to shreds. But some comments were very helpful and nice as well. But I just want to say to those that are interested or trying to pursue into acting or directing or filmmaking, it's not going to happen overnight. And everybody's not going to understand your struggle and your story. That's why you have to block those comments, use what you can and keep moving, you know?
Just I just love everything about your story. I think that I mean you're in your early 30s right now. I think that but you started very young, and that's why, scripture does talk about not despising your youth or not letting anyone despise your youth, making no excuse essentially because you're young. You
Mhm.
can glean what God has called you to do at a very early age, and you can walk confidently into that. And your practice of getting that flow, artistic flow, etc., that started very young, but you had to understand that my piece is something that's valuable to me, but like, how do I make this something that it can relate to a cross section or a group of people that have no dealings with anything that goes on in South Carolina? I think that that is so powerful. And I am going to have you talk about some of those things, but I think that one thing I loved about Christmas in Carolina as a Carolinian, uh, I know that some places you did shoot in the States, some things you did, like in different cities or whatever, but the set, it felt very much like downtown of, where
Mhm.
we are in South Carolina. It felt like downtown Marion, Florence, etc. Like it felt like at its best, like
Mhm.
that's what you presented in that film. I loved seeing some of those what I call cameo appearances from people
Mhm.
that I've known all my life. That was amazing as well. And I think it shed some light, and it brought some people hope as well. And then you talked about the Mariah Carey aspect. Yeah, they'll play this. uh, My children will see this every single year. It's going to become like Home Alone as much as we watch that, because it's rooted in home. And I think that um, it's timeless because you told the story of the eternal one. You told the story of Christ, and it's a story that's yet unfolding. So that's why I think you'll never get old in that way too. Yeah.
Well, I
I,
thank you for that.
of course, of course. I do want to ask you to talk about, though, in terms of filmmaking, like you talked about budgeting. You talked about knowing what you have and what you don't have. I got a good idea, but the money's not there. Uh, I've noticed that, like, for example, The Chosen, it was also a Christian film project that has now gone across the world, right? But it started as a crowdsourced,
Mhm.
project.
Hmm.
How do you go about, because we talk about this as CMA as an agency connecting minorities to socioeconomic resources. A lot of times the real gap between a good idea or a solution or a resource and them getting it sometimes is just the capital. So
Hmm.
how do you go about amassing capital as somebody that's a creative? Because sometimes you're not even thinking about that.
You use your resources. What does that mean? Meaning, if I'm in Marion and I'm shooting something in Marion, ask for donations for food if you got to feed your cast. That's expense that's not out of your pocket because you're asking for a donation or contribution. If you're trying to shoot a scene and the women are shopping downtown, you go there. You don't have to build that scene. You already have the set here. You get permission from the city. So you have to use your resources. You have to be creative in that, just as well as on paper, but financially, because it takes finances, Daniel, okay? Not unless you own your own camera and your own audio and your lights and you can do a 3-in-1. Oh, you doing something now. I can't do that. I have to have people to help me. So I have to use my resources. And then you'll see at the end the struggle and the journey that you had in the beginning is going to be beautiful in the end, because it's going to pay off, but you just can't quit because you don't have the finances. Yes, you go and do crowdsourcing and fundraisers and like I said, your resources, your savings. I took my mom as well. She took her retirement money and funded the Taft Watson. So it's a start. My mom believed in me. You know how many parents would take their portion of retirement that they worked so many years for to give to a daughter or son to make a film or a documentary and not knowing if they're going to get anything back from that documentary. But my mom believed in me. My dad believed in me. He recently I just shot a movie October of last year, a Halloween film. And I was like, Daddy, I got to have. He was like, say no more. And so my daddy came through, honey, okay? So but because he believed in the project, he knows. And so you have to have people that can walk with you, that can pray with you, because it gets hard. I mean, those late hours before I became a wife and a mom, Daniel, Christmas in Carolina, man, we were shooting all times of night, you know. It was nothing for us to get home 3, 2 a.m. Now that I'm a mom, I tried that one time, and that was in October when we were shooting this Halloween film in Marion County. And I got home about 4:30 and I was so tired, and my little baby woke up. I said, never again,
Yeah.
So but you have to use your resources. Find programs that can grants or programs that help with your media, whatever you're trying to do. You have to go out and research. It's not going to be given to you. You have to ask people, talk to someone, and network. That helps out a lot. And I get asked that question a lot, how do you get the money? What do you do? You got to find a way. And I'm not saying do something illegal, but you have to find a way to make your project work. If it takes you to shoot one scene 1 month or break it down, you don't have to shoot everything all at once.
Okay.
Shoot what your money can afford,
That's
you
right.
know,
That's right.
get what your money can afford.
That's right. And let
Yeah.
me tell you something, Stacie. I mean, everybody, you may want to move up to I'm looking at I got a Sony camera in front of me, right? When that start, but hey, I started doing shows on Zoom, before we had the whole big setup and I had an agency back, started on Zoom. Now, in terms of filmmaking, these iPhones can do some interesting things.
Interesting things. I was at a film festival and the young man made a whole movie, not a short film, a whole movie, and that's a hour and 20 minutes. That's a feature. Okay. And so off his iPhone, son, how did you do that? That's what I want to know. Like, what settings did you have on your phone? Please share with me. And
Right.
he won in the film festival. He won. And it was you could not tell,
Yeah.
So he used his resources and he
Yes.
made sure his audio was right, lighting was right, and
Absolutely.
he had a good product.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And what I love is that you're using to like your your home as like a base for it too.
Yeah.
So you got this Oh, I know some scary looking places buried, these big old buildings. You're like that opera house. Oh, don't even get me started. Places like that. You're like, ooh, something I could see. I could when you said Halloween Film and Mary, I was already thinking of places down Main Street had these big sweeping trees,
with the moss hanging,
right with
and
the
it
mall.
was so fun. We did all of that. But see, you know what? The cool thing about it, we went to Davis Landing, the
Okay.
river, and we shot it because the movie they're outside the majority of the night. And so it was really fun, but
Oh,
scary because you're hearing things at night, like y'all hurry up. So
right.
so yeah, you
Okay.
have to use your backdrop. Marion is a beautiful place. I know
I
we're
think so too.
small.
I think
We're
so too.
small. Yeah, we don't have much. We don't
Yeah.
have a lot like the bigger cities can
Yeah.
offer, but we have it's some gems here, you know.
Right.
You just got
Right.
to find it.
That's right.
And I could be riding by, especially leaving my in-laws in Fort, South Carolina, and there's this beautiful the little Pee Dee River. It's so small,
Hmm.
it's, tuck away. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, this is so nice. And my mind starts turning of what could be shot here because it's beautiful. Someone may say, I can't use that, but there's so many
Yes.
diamonds in the rough here.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
summers in the PD are
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
You go down to these little communities like Rains,
Hmm.
Centenary,
Hmm.
Friendship, Wahi.
Milton.
Some of these places I understand you may not want to drive at night because it's long and dark roads,
Hmm.
but they have character.
Yes,
They
they
have
do.
so much character. And I just feel like we take that for granted sometimes. So, gosh, it's amazing. Great story. Now you mentioned at the very end being a wife and a mom. Gosh, I'm gonna be honest. Like I just didn't even see that. Like I just didn't see
It
that.
happened.
I knew
Everybody
you'd be
said
a
that.
mom and wife one day. I just
Everybody
like
said that. It
it was like
happened.
I was
Let
like,
me tell you
what?
what happened, okay? So I made a pledge to myself. I turned 30, my best friend and I, we flew to New York to celebrate my birthday, and we came back and I said, you know what? I'm not dating it. I wasn't dating anybody. I said, well, since it's my 30th, every year from when I'm in my 30s, I'm going to take myself somewhere for my birthday. And she was like, honey, I'm with you. We're gonna go here, we're gonna go there. So 2020 came around and it's the pandemic. And during this time, I was working for Marion County Schools and we needed some, take home packages for the kids because school was closing down. And so this young man was working at Mullins High. And I was like, hey, send me your lesson plans so I can send to my kids. So I was just flirting a little bit, but not a lot, but just a little bit. Just a little bit, not a
It's all
lot.
right. It's all
Okay.
right.
And so he was so nice enough to send me his lesson plans. I was like, okay. And then a few months later, he reached out saying, hey, I got to have some help for graduation. Can you help me with the video? Sure. Help with the video. And then we didn't talk anymore. And then to be honest, I don't even know what happened, but I do know we started talking. And then he asked me to be his girlfriend. I was like, oh my gosh. I got really like, oh, you want me to
Giddy.
be your girlfriend? Yes.
Yeah.
So went from there, and now I'm not gonna say we didn't know of each other because he worked with my aunt for years, before he was a school teacher. So we did know of each other, but we never had like a full-blown conversation. Now I did talk to his sister because she was, outgoing. Kevin is really, conservative, shy. He's laid back. He ain't gonna make no noise or nothing. His sister, she was outgoing, personalities through the roof. So we would talk at basketball games or whatnot. And so now, we're dating each other. And the movie came out in November of 2020. So I'm thinking, he gonna ask me to marry him at the premiere. I just feel like he gonna do it, but he never did. He didn't do it. He didn't do it.
Giddy.
So he did it on like the next weekend. He took me to the location where we were going to get married at. I didn't know Daniel. And he proposed to me at the same location we got married at in Myrtle Beach. And so I was like, yeah, I'll marry you. Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and it hit Facebook because I kept my private life, try to keep that to myself. And so when we shared the photo of the engagement, everybody's like, is this a movie cover? What's going on? I didn't know
What's
you were
going
dating somebody.
That's the best way it is to
Yeah.
be. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's true.
And
It's
we got
beautiful.
married August of August 28, 2021. And we welcome our first son together September 1st, 2023. 2022. I'm
And
sorry, 2022.
because 2023 you had another one.
Kyla.
Right.
Yes. You see, I can't get my years together. I had
No.
Kyla on my
McCrary.
wedding anniversary.
No
Yes, I
way.
did.
Wow.
So it's a blessing. Never thought I would get married, have children, because I made a pact to myself that I'm gonna enjoy being single, work on my
Right.
credit, work on my finances, just things that I
Yeah,
need to do as an individual. And if the Lord
that's
bless me with
good.
a husband, then at least I'm set. I don't want to
Yes,
bring
right.
outstanding debt to him or,
Right.
you don't want to because
Yeah,
it's not fair.
that's right.
So I was trying to prepare and work on myself as a single person
That's good.
and as well as enjoy my life. And so when I look at you and you're traveling all over the place, and I text you, I'm like, man, I just enjoy your vlogs because
Oh,
I'm there
good.
with you
Oh,
in spirit.
goodness.
So because I can't do that right now, but we're
Yeah.
gonna get back to traveling some
Yes,
more.
of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Let me tell you something. I just realized you need to teach the singles. I just realized we need a single session from Miss Stacie Davis.
Mm-mm,
It just hit me. That's what we need to
mm-mm.
teach the young people that are even, you know, that are either single or like single but in a relationship as
Yeah.
I am,
Mhm.
or pursuing marriage, etc. How to still work on yourself so you're ready
So you're
for
ready.
that.
So
That's not something we talk about here.
when he asked me, I knew I was ready because I took time. Now, I'm not gonna say I'm the perfect because, honey, in college and after college, I was just everywhere, and I had to learn, like, Stacey, you can't do this. You got to slow it
It's,
down,
it's
and
right.
you got to know what you're just talking to anybody, and I can't talk to just anybody. You got to be spirit fed and spirit led,
That's
and
right.
so I had to, pump the brakes. And so
That's
that's what made me decide, what, says, let me work on my credit because there's so much that you can be doing. And I know it gets as a single person, you get, especially a woman. I was 28 and I'm like, man, am I ever going to get married? Because it's getting late,
yeah.
and you feel like everybody else is getting married, having children, and you're looking on social media, but you can't let that be your focus
That's right.
because it wasn't my time yet. And
Mhm.
so what I needed to do, work on me.
That's right.
And I kid you not, Daniel, I was not expecting to get in a relationship. I wasn't. I was just
Yes, ma'am.
working on me.
Working on you. Working on
That's
you.
all.
That's
Working on me.
beautiful. That's some of the
Yeah.
best work you can do.
And I'm still
Absolutely.
working on me, as a
Yeah.
mom and a wife, and then, a filmmaker and a writer. I'm still working on me.
Beautiful.
And I'm gonna shout her out. Keeping Up with C. She has a YouTube, Sierra Mullins,
Mhm.
Stacy Mullins YouTube channel. And every Monday she does a me day, and I'm not self-care day. And I appreciate that. I'm not there yet, but I do take a moment on Mondays, if it's only 10 minutes, if I'm in my closet and just have a me day, because that's important. You have to have self-care. You have
Yeah.
to have self-care as a person, human being.
Mhm.
You got to take care of
Abs-
mentally, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
Yes. Of course. And may I say, you have the most beautiful children that I've seen I mean, actually beautiful children.
thank you.
Little boy, he's like the perfect combination of you and your husband. I
Yeah,
mean, and the little girl is so
yeah.
precious.
Well,
They
thank
are
you.
some precious
That's the
children. When I
Lord's
see him,
doing.
he be running around. He's
Yeah,
running around. I
he's
mean,
actually
just
running now. That's why I'm over here
he's
in the corner, tucked away, with the door closed,
oh no, he's
trying to
running.
whisper so he won't hear me.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah,
Stacy is a mommy. That is so full circle. So I really just want to end by saying I know that you have so much wealth of wisdom that you give to filmmakers, etc. I sort of want to ask as we end this about, during the month of Black History Month, the Black History question that I would ask you is how do you envision investing what has been invested in you into further generations? Do you want to start like a school for film actors? Do you want to like how do you see that going about? You have Stacie Davis Films, but how do you see that? Because you talked about the importance of Black mentorship in your life. How do you plan to shed that forth to other up and coming African American creatives?
So I haven't technically announced this, but I'm sharing this with you. I do have a nonprofit organization, 501(c)(3), titled Create Now Foundation. And so because we don't have acting classes, acting schools, production, we don't have that here in Marion County. So my dream is to you know, offer these things for the area, but to the area in Pee Dee area. But also each project, I try to go back to Claflin or any other colleges and offer internships to those students who are in the mass communications department or film department. And so because someone helped me and you want to give back, um, and I know that the ancestors will be proud because I'm standing on the shoulders of ancestors, that went through so much. And so I dare not give back to the community, to let them know that, hey, we are here, the next generation. I want someone to come after me to do bigger and better things. I'm not selfish because there's so much out there that everybody can take part and eat together, And I feel like a lot of people think, oh, she ain't gonna share that because she wants to just make all this money. No, it's a lot out there. And if you're here to help me and you're genuinely interested in what I'm doing, then I'm all for it. Come in so you can learn. There's one student and I admire him, and he's my right hand and my left hand. His name is Jalen Langley. He's from Florida. I met him through Claflin. He interned with me, and his persistence, he was very persistent and consistent, and he was a young man that was just looking for an opportunity to write and showcase his skills. Didn't ask for any money. He just wanted to come and work. And I watched him on my set, and he was doing everything and learning so much. And so what did I do? The next project I had, hey, Jalen, can you come down and I'll cover this and I'll cover that for you so that he can continue to get these skills so that he can go off to film school or whatever endeavors he want to do. And so that blessed me to see that, Stacie, you're not just holding everything for yourself, but you're also opening doors and giving opportunities to those that are, that need it. Like, for instance, there's an actor, we went to Claflin together, and she was doing TikToks and these reels, and I watch them. I do. I'm not on TikTok, but somehow I trickle upon TikTok and I'm watching videos, hometown people, because there's a lot of actors here in the area that you may not even know. They just, and they're funny, And so I'm looking like, oh, I could write a scene for this person because that personality fits perfectly. And so I reached out to her. She reached out to me actually. She was like, hey girl, whenever you do another project, let me know. And she was just joking, but I let her know, like, hey, I'm doing a project. And so that started her career in acting, and she's doing very well for herself now. So I want to continue to give opportunities just like someone gave me the opportunity.
Amazing. Amazing, Stacie. Stacie, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure. How can people stay in contact with what you're doing, Stacie?
You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm trying to get on Snap, but guys, you gotta, it's a lot, okay? But Facebook.
You don't got to do it. Leave that alone. I deleted it myself. Don't even do it.
Facebook and Instagram, and I'm getting a new website right now. But you can follow me, Stacie Davis Films, on social media. I would
Thank
love to hear from you. I really would.
Yes. Thank you so very much, y'all.
Thank you.
Of course. It's been another episode of The Culture Connect with Mrs. Stacie Davis-Hamilton. Happy Black History Month. Did you enjoy the episode? I hope you did. Be sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and connect with us on all digital platforms so you don't miss the next episode of The Culture Connect. We'll see you next time, everybody.